Once hailed as the second largest economy in the European Union, France now finds itself grappling with an economic slowdown far deeper than anticipated. With industries that once symbolized French economic strength faltering, and the country facing internal and external challenges, the French economy in 2024 is struggling to maintain the momentum it once had. Today, we will examine the factors contributing to France's economic collapse, explore the industries that have historically driven its growth, and analyze how these challenges could affect the nation's future. Act 1. A troubling economic outlook. At the dawn of 2024, France's economic forecast is significantly less optimistic than expected. While the French economy has been showing signs of distress for several years, the scope of the current crisis has taken many by surprise. Experts have warned that France's GDP growth could remain flat or even contract in the coming year, pushing the country's economic recovery much further away than anticipated. The nation's industrial output is steadily declining, and unemployment rates, particularly in key regions and among the youth, have reached troubling levels. Once an economy known for innovation and manufacturing, France is now facing economic stagnation and a deeply struggling labor market. Several key industries that have long been pillars of France's economy are now underperforming, and the outlook for 2024 is grim. Act 2. The decline of key industries. Let's begin by looking at one of the sectors that has historically been at the heart of France's economy: the automotive industry. The French automotive sector, once a powerhouse with global brands like Peugeot, Renault, and Citroën, is facing multiple challenges in the 2020s. As Europe transitions toward electric vehicles, EVs, the French auto industry is struggling to keep pace with the rapid changes in technology and consumer demand. The shift to electric vehicles requires extensive investment in new production facilities and supply chains, and French automakers have found it difficult to compete with their German and Asian counterparts in this space. On top of this, the global chip shortage that has plagued industries worldwide continues to affect the French car manufacturers. With production lines stalled and deliveries delayed, the automotive sector has seen a sharp drop in output. This decline is further compounded by rising raw material prices, particularly in the wake of global supply chain disruptions, making it harder for French companies to maintain their market share. But the automotive sector is not the only industry struggling. France's aerospace sector, which includes giants like Airbus, is facing increased competition from both the United States and Asia. Despite being a global leader in commercial airliner manufacturing, the sector is finding it increasingly difficult to maintain profitability in the face of lower demand for air travel in the post-pandemic world. Act 3. The energy crisis, straining an already fragile economy. The energy crisis in France is a central issue contributing to its economic struggles. France has long relied on nuclear power for the majority of its electricity, but a series of shutdowns and aging infrastructure have significantly reduced the country's energy capacity. The crisis has been worsened by rising energy costs, particularly in the wake of the war in Ukraine, and France's reliance on natural gas imports from volatile regions. While the French government has emphasized the transition to renewable energy, this shift has been slow, and the country's energy infrastructure remains outdated. High energy costs have placed a strain on industries such as manufacturing, agriculture, and chemicals, which are heavy consumers of energy. With energy costs increasing, many businesses have been forced to scale back operations, relocate, or close altogether, leading to a significant loss of jobs and production. As energy prices rise, consumer behavior has also been affected. Many French citizens are now struggling with higher utility bills and reduced disposable income. The combination of increased energy costs and rising inflation has led to widespread public dissatisfaction, with protests and strikes becoming more frequent. Act 4. Demographic challenges and labor shortages. Another critical issue facing France is its demographic shift. Like many European nations, France has an aging population, which is creating a strain on the labor market. Fewer young people are entering the workforce, and there is a growing demand for workers in sectors like healthcare, construction, and technology. Despite efforts to attract skilled labor through immigration and incentives for younger workers, the overall labor pool is shrinking. This demographic imbalance is leading to labor shortages, particularly in industries that rely on skilled workers. Companies in France are struggling to fill these gaps, and this is further exacerbated by the country's complicated labor laws and rigid regulations that make hiring and firing processes difficult. While the French government has made moves to implement labor market reforms, these efforts have been met with resistance from unions and political opposition, delaying any potential improvements. In addition to these labor shortages, the French welfare system, which is under pressure from the aging population, is facing mounting debt. The government is looking at pension reform to address these issues, but any changes to the pension system are controversial and have led to significant public unrest. Act 5. France's declining global competitiveness. France's long-standing position as a competitive player on the global stage is now at risk. While the country remains a key player in Europe, its ability to maintain its market share in vital sectors is dwindling. France's manufacturing sector, once renowned for its efficiency and innovation, is facing fierce competition from lower-cost producers in Eastern Europe, Asia, and Africa. The high labor costs, combined with a lack of investment in modernization, have made French products less competitive globally. In particular, industries such as textiles, steel, and heavy machinery, which once thrived in France, are now increasingly outsourced or moved abroad. This loss of competitiveness has resulted in a slow decline in industrial exports, with France's market share in key export sectors steadily shrinking. Moreover, while France is known for its luxury goods and fashion industries, these sectors are also under pressure due to global economic instability. Consumer spending in key markets, particularly in China and the United States, has slowed, and French luxury brands are feeling the pinch. While the luxury sector remains a strong pillar of the economy, it's becoming clear that diversification is needed to avoid over-reliance on a few key industries. Act 6. Inflation and consumer behavior. Inflation has been another challenge for France, and while it has eased slightly in recent months, it continues to weigh heavily on the economy. Rising food prices, soaring energy bills, and a general increase in the cost of living have led to a drop in consumer confidence. As inflation increases, consumers are less willing to spend, and the country's domestic demand is weaker than ever. The French consumer is turning more conservative, saving rather than spending, leading to stagnation in retail and service industries. For a country that relies on consumption to drive its economy, this has been a significant blow. In fact, the French consumer savings rate has surged, and many households are focusing on building financial security rather than spending on non-essential items. This caution in consumer behavior further dampens the overall economic activity, contributing to the economic slowdown. Act 7. Government response and the path to recovery. The French government has attempted to address the challenges facing the economy, particularly through efforts to modernize infrastructure, promote green energy, and attract investment in technology and innovation. However, these reforms are taking time to yield results, and the underlying economic issues remain persistent. In particular, the government's efforts to reduce bureaucracy and improve business conditions have been hampered by political opposition and protests from labor unions. While the Macron administration has pushed through some labor market reforms, it remains unclear whether these changes will be enough to revive the economy in the short term. The country is also facing fiscal constraints due to the rising costs of pensions and healthcare, which have put the public finances under significant pressure. The need for austerity measures is growing, but implementing these measures could further stoke public discontent and lead to more protests and social unrest. Conclusion: France's economic situation in 2024 is worse than expected, with key industries underperforming, high energy costs, a shrinking labor force, and rising inflation. The country's ability to recover will depend on its ability to adapt to a changing global landscape, address its energy crisis, and implement structural reforms that can foster innovation and competitiveness. However, the road to recovery will be long and difficult, and France must act quickly to overcome its challenges before they become insurmountable. How the government responds to these pressures will shape the future of the French economy, and the world will be watching to see whether France can rise to the occasion.